10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RXMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined by John Romano on this January 8th, 2018 afternoon. And John, I just decided randomly, I said, I'm going to call John Romano and see what he's doing because, it's 2018 and you want to get more involved. And I know you're busy with work and everything, but I figured, 11 o'clock at night, this is the witching hour for us, right?
Afternoon for us.
Yeah. So we got him here.
I'm glad you called because we should be doing this.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I get people all the time telling me, you and Dave. How come you're not doing stuff with Dave? I go, I'm doing whatever I can, but
right.
Dave's busy. I'm busy. We got things are different now. So, although this was the genesis of everything that is RX Muscle, so I think we owe it to ourselves.
Isn't it amazing that it's going to be, next month? It'll be 9 years, I think.
9 years.
Nine years or something like that. And people, we said jokingly, but although we meant it, that Bleckman would be out of business, before the end of the decade. And and it's pretty close right now, that's for sure.
He ostensibly is, yeah. I mean, I've heard of bottom feeding before, but you need sonar to find out what he's doing. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, people have been telling me, "Do you know who Bleckman's talking to?" I go, "Who the hell is that?" Hey, he wants to hire him. I go, "I mean, some poor jabroni that wants to work for nothing." How desperate do you have to be today to take a job with muscular development?
I don't think there is jobs. There's just internships at this point, right?
Well, I was talking to Rick Collins the other day, and he still has his column there, and I love Rick, and just like
his column might be the only thing that's actually still new and original being written there.
I think Rick's column is the only reason anybody would buy the magazine. Why else? Everything else is regurgitated old shit that he's been printed already. Right. Right. Why would anybody? Rick, you're right. Rick is probably more than likely the only fresh content that Print Rag has.
And because he doesn't have to pay Rick, because he probably gives him an ad or something like that.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some kind of deal. Whatever, that's speculation. And but look, Rick doesn't need the money, so the finances is not the issue. No. And I'm sure Rick has his reasons for doing it, although he won't tell us. But I appreciate that about Rick because you, me, and everybody else, many people we know have secrets we want Rick to keep. So
that is true. He probably knows more secrets in this industry than anyone else.
I said, Rick, where all the bodies are buried. And he says, yup, and I'm taking it to my grave. And I believe him. So, I'm no shade on Rick. Rick's a great guy. We love him. And, I mean, really, he's one of my, along with you and just a very few other people, like my real inner circle in this industry. So, I appreciate what he does, but I tease him, I go, yeah, great article, Rick. I'm glad 7 people are going to read it.
Yeah. We're putting it on the website too. We don't want to cannibalize.
Right? No, the digital side.
The
digital side.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Speaking of digital, we ended last year with the iron debate with the old crew, Valentino, yourself, me, Chris, and we on the show. If people haven't seen it, you can go watch it. It's on the site. But I mean, we speculated, because look, I know what happened with Louie Marco and William Bonac, and I really don't really want to talk about it again. But I guess it is relevant only because that's this is the hot news going on for these last 2 weeks.
Right.
I speculate. What if I knew that Louie Marco didn't say anything about William Bonac? I said, but what if he did? Because he did say something about what's his name, Phil Heath after the Olympia. Where do we stand with people saying things? Should people be allowed to say things about other bodybuilders? And if they do, should they be accountable for what they say? And should the bodybuilders be attacking these guys because of what they're saying? And there was a lot of harsh stuff said about Louie Marco. and he got butthurt about it. Now, after he got, I'm going to let you comment because I know you got a rant to go on. But after after this show went up, Louie Marco got all insulted because we talked about him and he wasn't asked to be there. Now, I didn't even know it was going to really get into a Louie Marco, bash fest in the sense that, you and Valentino had very strong opinions about it. And after all, that's what Iron Debate was developed for, to have people with strong opinions who argue and don't agree with each other.
Right.
So it actually was a successful show in that sense. And he got upset. So I, trying to be the nice guy about it, I said, look, I texted him. I said, look, I'll do an interview with you because I didn't know you wanted to get your side across. And I said, I don't know why you're taking everything so personal. There's nothing. It's their opinions. But once again, he took it personally. So I said, fine. He went and did an hour interview with him at like 12 midnight. My family needs me. I don't need to be doing interviews at 12 midnight. But I agreed to do it for his channel, not even my channel. And of course, I knew I was going to be assaulted by this guy. So I answered all the tough questions. I came back at him pretty strong, on certain points that I felt, strongly about. And he put it up. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like after a week, he decided to take it down. And he decided to do an interview with Joe Piatera over at Muscle Sport, who I have no problems with. I get along with fine.
Right.
And so I'm saying to myself, it was like an hour long. I didn't want to waste the time watching it, but I said, look, I got to watch it because I got to find out why he took this interview down. And I surmised after all this, I could smell what was going on, that he was more or less butthurt over the fact that, I said to him on the interview, I challenged him. I said, do you really think that if, a network TV came out with a TV show where they covered bodybuilding and they had to pick who to come on there to do, constructive criticism and analysis of what's going on, that they would pick you over me? I said, are you kidding me? I said, they're going to pick someone who's articulate, who's been in the industry, who's competed, who's written for magazines, who's critiqued the industry for years, an expert, someone who's actually done it himself. I said, they're going to pick a Flex Wheeler, a Sean Ray, myself, someone like that. And that just irked him. I knew it did right when I said it. He hasn't stopped talking about it on everything he's been doing about it. So he pulls the interview down. He does this interview with what's his name, Joe Piatera. And then in the interview he says, I don't associate with myself, and I won't do interviews or something like that with anyone who swears. Now, you know anything about Joe Piatera? He's an ex-New York City cop with the foulest mouth out there. So I felt the need to do it. And once again, I wasted another hour of my time doing a response, probably more than that, a response video to him and putting his clip of him saying he doesn't associate or do interviews with people who swear. And then I put the clip of Joe and Valentino doing their show together when they were doing it, talking to Angie Salvagno. Basically saying, holy fuck, I just jerked off watching your video before this interview. So
I'm sure it was classic.
Yes. You'll. I'm sure. I know you haven't seen it because I just put it up.
I haven't. Now I want.
You'll laugh your ass off, yeah. Because so I mean, what's your take on this whole? To me, and I addressed this also. The thing, the guy has become an egomaniac, arrogant guy. He's saying things like, I could call Kai and the top 6 Olympia guys anytime I want. I got him on speed dial. No one else has that. This guy went from being like this humble, YouTube guy to being this arrogant guy who thinks he runs the industry now.
My question is the same question I asked during the Iron Debate. Who the fuck is Louie Marco? I've been in this industry for 30 years. I've never heard of this guy. To me, he's on the same tier as Christian Duque.
No, you know what? I'm going to disagree with you, and then I'm going to let you go on. The reason I'm going to say that is because Christian Duque gets 25 views for his videos.
Okay, that's true.
Louie Marco has a tremendous following on social media, YouTube, Instagram, and he gets a lot of hits to his videos. So he has some you got to give him some relevance, but he's not someone who's made his bones, so to speak, by critiquing contests for 20 years. This is not a guy who did it. You could either be a guy who's Peter McGuff never competed, but he can critique any bodybuilding show because he's been doing it for so long. So you don't have to compete to be an analyst. I don't want to make that seem like it helps, obviously, if you have, because you have better insight, but you don't have to be. But you can't be a guy who's been critiquing, magazine articles or pictures you find online for a couple of years and consider yourself an expert. So I think what I don't understand is why this guy got such a big blown up ego. Is it because of the social media following? I mean, what he's doing is he's intimidating people, because what these social media guys have is they have these huge followings. They have these huge hordes of people that follow them online, and they'll go on other people's channels and they'll basically wreak havoc on this. So everyone's afraid. They want Louie to be their best friend, including these pros. I don't know why. They're empowering him. It's not anyone else. You can't blame anyone but the guys that are doing the empowering. And I just got sick of it. I said, you know what, fuck it, I don't give a shit anymore. I'm not going to be nice to this guy. If he's not going to be nice, he took my interview down, he's talking bad about me, fine. You know what? You picked the wrong person to start a war with, that's for sure.
Well, for sure. Well, let me go back and finish answering your question. Yeah. I didn't mean it in terms of relevance. I meant it in terms of weight.
Right.
To me, an industry insider like you, Louie Marco has as much weight as Christian Duque. Nobody gives a shit. Okay, so he's got 20 million followers. I don't care if he's got 20 million followers. Do his 20 million followers affect me? Do his 20 million followers affect Kai Green, Phil Heath, or anybody? But no, they don't. They're irrelevant. Not that they're irrelevant. He's irrelevant. So it's like, to me, it's like, how many people watched Bugs Bunny in the 1960s? It was a cartoon. I don't care if 7 million people watched it. It doesn't mean that Bugs Bunny has any relevance in the world. He's a cartoon character. So to me, that's Louie Marco. He's a character who has developed a social media following. Now, these days, you can be the guy who beats himself in the head with a sledgehammer until he dies, and you'll be an internet sensation. It doesn't mean you're relevant, smart, intellectual, a person who knows the industry they're talking about, articulate, whatever. It's just a person who beat himself to death with a sledgehammer, and everybody watched it. So it's gotten zero to do with our industry. Okay, I'll give Louie Marco, whoever this guy is, I'll give him props for having the idea to start, talking and bodybuilding on YouTube and developing a following. Great, I'm glad he did that. Power to him. But people have been asking me all for the last 2 weeks since we first did Iron Debate with Valentino. Hey, did you hear what Lui Marco said about you? Did you read what Lui Marco said? Did you read this interview? Did you hear this interview? Blah, 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 Lui Marco, Lui Marco, Lui Marco. I go, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what Lui Marco says. I don't care what his people that are listening to him think about me. To me, it's like if I have some towelhead in Afghanistan who's talking shit about me to 7 million people and I never listen to it, does it affect me? No, I was always told that to Derek Anthony. Remember when Derek would have those epic meltdowns on GetBig.com? He would freak out, and then he'd come calling us, and you could feel the veins in his popping out. I go, Derek, don't read it. Stay off the site. You'll never know what they're saying. It'll never affect you. Right. Don't pay attention. Okay, so. Of course, he never listened to me, and he blew
himself high blood pressure, and it probably destroyed his kidneys. Yeah,
it probably had his temper probably had a contributing factor to his demise. I would, without any medical proof, I would be willing to go out.
His blood pressure had to be through the roof. His face was always red, beet red.
Had to be, and that wasn't related to steroids. It was because he was a hothead.
Right.
Okay, so the whole thing with pundits is that you are a pundit to affect a reaction, and the reaction is designed or should be designed to cause an action, whether it's to click on a link, to buy something, to subscribe to something, whatever. The purpose of a following is to create an action. So you can have all the followers in the world. I mean, I love these bikini girls. They go, I have 7 million followers. But you can't sell a tube of toothpaste because your 7 million followers are a bunch of guys who are jerking off to your shadow. Right. You got nothing to sell. You have no relevance. You have nothing. You have a bunch of followers. Today, now, 5 or 6 years ago, followers meant something. Today it doesn't, because nobody can monetize them because there's too many of them. Right. Because the one person who's among the however many thousands Louie Marco has following him are also following 20 other people or 50 other people. So you can't zero in on that one person and say, oh, he's listening to me, so I'm going to tell him to go buy this and he's going to go do it. No, he's listening to 50 other people who are telling him to go buy shit, and he's not doing that either.
True, and also, just because if you've been doing this, like Louie has been doing YouTube probably since it started, so that's almost 10 years. So think about that. I mean, he might have people who subscribed 10 years ago. They're not even watching the programming anymore,
And those people have subscribed in that last 10 years to probably 100 other channels. So it's so diluted now so if Louie Marco is talking shit about me, who cares? It has absolutely zero relevance or effect on my life, my business, my position in the industry. Absolutely zero. In fact, if anything, it would help it because, one of his followers who never heard of me before, all of a sudden starts Googling me and then, finding out who I am, and then they're subscribing to something. So whatever. It means absolutely nothing. The problem that guys like him foment online and in our industry is they are nobody. Nobody in the sense that, not nobody that they don't have any followers, they are nobody in the industry, meaning Peter McGuff isn't going to talk to this guy. He's not on the level of Peter McGuff. He's got nothing in common with Peter McGuff. He couldn't talk bodybuilding with Peter McGuff. He couldn't carry Peter McGuff's jockstrap because Peter McGuff, like many other of our contemporaries, although I'm just going out on a limb calling Peter my contemporary. He's way ahead of me, but you know what I'm talking about. Industry, and guys like you and me that have been around, who have, been in the industry, written for magazines, been on TV, been on radio, competed, coached clients, coached athletes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have relevance because we've been in the trenches. You can't just be a guy who gets up one day, lifts a couple of weights, and says, "Oh, I'm going to get on YouTube and be the next bodybuilding expert."
Right, and I'm gonna preface that because you know what. Someone asked, actually, Louie asked me on his interview. He goes, "Do you think that Aaron Singerman is good, a good commentator or a good analyst or something like that?" I said, "Absolutely," and I'll tell you why. Because Aaron was on the road with me for 3.5 years, critiquing bodybuilding shows in the front row in the press pit, taking video, doing analysis, doing wrap-ups. He was writing articles online. He was doing radio commentary for years. I said, "So yes, even though he never really competed at a high level." He has relevancy because he did like an internship almost, for this. So yes, I think he's very good at it. So
not only that, but Aaron came from nothing, zero.
Yeah.
Okay, if it wasn't for me talking about his relationship with bots, he would that springboarded him into stardom basically, or at least with RX Muscle, and we got more involved with him. Yeah. And whatever. I mean, Aaron was a good sport. He took a lot of shit from us. Right. Remember when you started calling him Chewbacca?
Yeah,
and he didn't like it, and you made him like it.
Everyone has got to have a nickname, right?
Yeah. So I mean, of course, Aaron. Aaron, to me, Aaron's one of the best success stories in our industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so absolutely.
Like or dislike the guy, he's a success. There's a lot of jealousy, I'm saying.
I have nothing but respect for
Aaron.
No,
I do too, but I'm just saying there are people that don't like him. They think, this or that. Yeah, but there's people don't like you and me either. So usually people that are successful have lovers and haters,
Of course. If you hate us, you're jealous. That's the only reason, because we are
because we're great.
We're lovable guys through and through. Just ask our wives.
That's right.
But getting back to your point, when you critique something, and let's take bodybuilding out of this completely. Let's use Formula One or drag racing or something like that. If you're going to critique something on the order of a athletic or sports competition, or any competition for that matter, the Miss America pageant, you have to know something about the industry upon which you are critiquing.
Let me ask you a question. You're a big car guy, right? You love cars. I love cars. So you follow racing and stuff like that. Do you think you'd be as qualified to critique, the Indy 500 as Dale Earnhardt Jr. would be? If who would they pick to work the commentary in the booth?
That's a rhetorical question. Of course it's Dale Earnhardt.
Of course, I know. I'm saying so. Yeah, I mean, at what point? I don't know why these guys are taking offense to the fact that we're not saying that they're not relevant, like you said. We're saying that when you're critiquing the Mr. Olympia competition, which is the most prestigious bodybuilding show in the world, okay, you're not going to just pick some guy because he's got a lot of followers on YouTube, even if he's got good insights, because he doesn't know the nuances of the sport. You can't learn that in such a short period of time.
It's beyond that. It's like you're going in for heart surgery tomorrow morning. Do you want a top-ranked, cardiac surgeon, or you want a guy who spent the night in a Holiday Inn Express? You want the top guy you can possibly get your hands on. So if I'm going to spend my time listening to a critique or a play-by-play or whatever the hell he does on his station, I want to hear it from a qualified person. Qualified does not mean I have 7 million followers. That does not qualify you. Qualifying you means you put in the time in the trenches. Using your Aaron Singerman example, exactly like that. He did an internship with us. You dragged him through every country on the planet. I mean, that guy learned bodybuilding from the basement up. Okay, but in so doing, he created his own persona, his own name, his own recognition that people listening to the shows recognize Aaron Singerman not as just a guy with a YouTube channel, but hey, Aaron Singerman's with Dave Palumbo all the time. I hear him, see him interviewing this guy. He's at this show. He's at the Olympia. He's at the Arnold. He's here. He's there at the after party. And so you become to learn who these people are on the inside. And it's great to have a big following. Power to you if you can figure out how to get a big following online. As long as you can do something with it, that's great. But most people can't do shit with it, so it doesn't really mean anything. But for the original point of your original question was the bodybuilders getting bent out of shape about guys like him critiquing him. And if I was a top 10 Mr. Olympia competitor and Louie Marco is telling me I got small calves, I'm gonna take offense to that, because A, I do not have small calves, and B, who the fuck is Louie Marco? And you're gonna tell me, oh, he's got 7,000 followers on YouTube. I don't give a fuck. Who is he? What has he done? Where are his calves? What has he competed in? Where's his CV? What magazines is he written for? What qualifies him to give his opinion weight? How does he compare to Peter McGuff? He doesn't. Okay, so bodybuilders who are going to take his criticism. I mean, I could see the Bonac thing very clearly. Bonac looks at this jabroni and go, "Who the fuck is this guy?" And it's very different. If Peter McGuff said the same thing, Bonac is going to pay homage to Peter McGuff and accept what he says as the way it is.
Right, but you know what? We shouldn't use the Bonac. The Bonac example is a bad example. I'll tell you why. Because that was a misunderstanding. He didn't say anything. But better yet, the Phil Heath is a better example,
okay,
because
I'm just using the name.
Yeah. No, I'm saying because they keep harping on this Bonac thing. Forget Bonac. Let's talk Mr. Olympia. You're watching from your house and you're telling everyone that Mr. Olympia shouldn't have won Mr. Olympia when everyone there who was watching in the press row thought he should. So
that's a great example because leading up to this last Olympia, everybody hated Phil Heath going. First of all, Phil Heath, for whatever reason, is just not a likable guy. And I have no problem with him. He's probably got a problem with me by now, but I've never really said anything bad about him other than the fact that I didn't think he deserved to win not this last year, but the 5 Olympias before that. Mm-hmm. So, or 4 of them anyway. So, to critique Phil Heath in that light, when he came back last year, with a vengeance, and was probably 1 or 2 of the best Phil Heaths we've ever seen, that for somebody like Louie Marco to critique him negatively, it not only shows that he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about, but it's offensive. It's offensive not only to the listenership in general, because they're being cheated out of the truth, but it's also offensive to people who really know what's going on in the industry, and it gives us a bad name because he's positioned himself as a pundit along with us, and he's given Mr. Olympia a completely incorrect, inaccurate, and wrong assessment.
Well, he thinks that he's changing the way that him and his fans are going to force the IFBB to change their judging criteria and get rid of Phil and mark down the guts and go to the classic look, because has a categorical imperative on this, and that he believes that the IFBB will go out of business if they don't do this. What do you think about that statement?
You know why that's never going to happen? I talked to Jim Mannion before Christmas. We wished each other Merry Christmas. And I go, by the way, Jimmy, you ever heard of a guy named Louie Marco? And he goes, I think he was a plumber that came to my house one time.
I can see him saying that.
He has no clue who Louie Marco is. So, and I maybe Weinberger knows who he is, but I guarantee you that Louie Marco and his minions are going to have absolutely zero effect on the judging criteria of the Olympia. They can jump, scream, do whatever the hell they want. Louie Marco can walk up and down, Fifth Avenue in his underwear with a flag that says "No guts in bodybuilding," and it's going to amount to absolutely nothing, zero. So, it's great that he thinks that he can do this, but the reality of it happening is nil. It's not going to happen at all, ever.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's move on. I wanted to bring up. I wanted to ask you one thing. Since as long as I got you on the show, what do you think of Lee Priest removing the tattoo from his face? Do you think he's going to change his mind halfway through?
Lee is people who have this thing with tattoos. I mean, you have tattoos. I have tattoos. I probably don't know anybody who doesn't have a tattoo. Yeah. Okay, we all have our reasons for getting our tattoos, and because they're permanent or supposedly permanent, they're supposed to express some very strong emotion, feeling, opinion, whatever. I think tattoo removal. It's never removed. If you ever seen a tattoo removal, it's still there. You just not in color.
It's not a shadow of itself.
Yeah, it's not gone. So and I know Lee had one girl that didn't like it, so he had some lasered off, and then another one liked it, so he put it back on. And blah, blah. I just can't believe that that's very good for your skin, and I would hate to see something bad happen to Lee's face,
especially his eye. He's got that one that goes over his eyelid,
right to the corner of his eye. I mean, that's radical, but I don't know if I would be wanting a laser that close to my tear duct. But
he said it feels like someone's pouring hot oil on his face.
Yeah, I mean,
when they're removing it.
Look, depending on where you get the tattoo, it can feel really good or it can hurt like a motherfucker.
Yeah.
So, I remember I got one on my neck. God, it just felt so good. I wanted him to keep going. And then, one of my kids' names with the barbed wire under my arm. When he got under my arm, oh my God, I thought the top of my head was going to come off. Right. It fucking hurt so much. So, I can only imagine what it feels like to get it removed. I love Lee. Lee is probably one of the best characters in our industry.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly one of the most colorful, besides the ink. And I think some of what he does for shock value, and it works. But
boredom.
And boredom, yeah. I mean, I just would be worried about my skin. I don't know if on off. It's like the Starbelly Sneetches and Dr. Seuss. I mean, after a while, you go, okay, where am I now? What do I do? I have a tattoo or not? So I'd be worried about the health of my skin getting constantly inked and uninked. I don't know.
It's probably all that laser will probably make his skin look younger, even.
It tightens it up. It's look like facelift. Yeah, that's pretty good. So. But I know Lee, power to him, man. And look, anybody who's got the balls to get a tattoo on your face, it certainly has my blessing to have it removed on and off as many times as you want.
I'm sure. I think he's just wiping the slate clean so he can do another one. That's truly what I believe.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know enough about it.
He said he wanted to put a half a Spider-Man mask on his face. He was thinking
but can you tattoo over where you had a tattoo after it was lasered off?
Yeah, because he did it already. He did. He had it removed once before, or most of it.
I just can't imagine your skin surviving that.
I know, it's crazy. Speaking of Australia, the Arnold Classic Australia list was released. And in case you didn't know, John, our good friend Kevin Levrone is going to be doing his final show of his career. He said this will be at the Arnold Australia. He wants to leave. He wants to, I guess, leave the industry with a win. He picked a hell of a show to do because he's got the Olympia lineup in this show. He's got Dennis Wolf making the comeback, William Bonac, who we just were talking about in the lineup, Ruley Winkler, Cedric McMillan. Among Akeem Williams, I see who else in this lineup here: Lionel Baiki, John De La Rosa, Hide Yamagishi. So it's not going to be any easy lineup for sure. Do you think? I've seen some pictures of his upper body; it looks pretty good. Do you think Kevin can hold his own in this lineup at 53 or whatever he's going to be?
This is where our love for Kevin as our friend. And it's a three-way collision. It's our love for Kevin as our friend, our love for that 90s era bodybuilding sensation who, rose to the top among the thickest field ever created by God in the world, and the father time, the reality of what time robs. So we saw Kevin. We saw Kevin come back. We were, we were all in his corner. I'm still in his corner. We never saw his legs, so we had that surprise come on us. And to come back, I think comeback is a bad word because you can't come back. You just can't be as good at 53 as you were at 33. You just can't. It just doesn't work. You can be good, you can be great, you can be amazing, you could be inspirational, you can be a lot of positive things, but I don't think you can ever come back. So, and I really thought if anybody could have pulled that off, it would have been Flex Wheeler. And we saw what happened there, So, look, God bless him. I'm so happy he's able physically and health-wise to pursue this and make a statement. I think what he's really doing, I think it's better perceived that Kevin is making a statement that, bodybuilding endures. You can be a bodybuilder and you're a bodybuilder for life. And here's the proof. And if you just keep training and keep eating right and keep going to the gym and take a modicum of drugs and keep it up and keep doing what you're supposed to do, you can maintain a bodybuilder physique forever. So I think that's what he's proving. Whether he can hold his own in that lineup, just based on, and this, Kevin, if you're listening, brother, this is no shade on you, the man. This is just the way it is. If you're going to go into that kind of lineup, if you're not bringing your 1996 physique or whatever one of his best years was, it ain't going to happen, bro. It's just not. And these guys today are just, God, it's like, Victor Conte was telling me about sprinters who get banned for failing their drug test and spend 2 years or 4 years out of competition and come back. They can never come back.
Yeah.
Because the guys that didn't get banned, they're still improving, they're competing, they're training, they're accelerating, they're getting better. And if you're out, you're out. People forget who you are. People don't remember what your best was. Your times suck. It's nothing like it used to be. And the technology and the implementation of protocols is so far advanced in that amount of time that you can't catch up. So it's such a difficult thing for a guy like that to do at 53 at any age. If he was 10 years younger, it would be hard for him to do. So I wish him all the best. I wish him every bit of luck I could possibly give him, but I just don't feel realistically that, that he's going to be able to pull off a Kevin Levrone physique that we remember from the 90s and pull that into the 2018, Arnold Classic. So I applaud him for trying, for putting it out there, for giving it his all and committing his life to this. But and I think the message it sends is worth much more than a top 10 placing. But I just don't see him, pulling off what he's got to pull off to beat guys like, Bonac, De La Rosa, the whole lineup that you just named. It's just tough. It's really these are tough guys, and I'll give Levrone the benefit of the doubt because he competed among the best of the best of the best there ever was at one time. I mean, when he competed back in the day, I mean, you had to go up against not only Lee Priest and Paul Dillette and Jay Cutler and Chris Cormier and Nasser, and I mean these were top.
Dorian, Ronnie,
yeah, exactly. I mean, he survived and endured and persevered and dominated in those lineups. So he's a warrior. But to come back today, it's tough, man. It's just a really hard thing to do, and
I wonder if he has regrets. I know he'll probably say no because I know, and I've interviewed him and asked him this question before, and he said no but he never really trained off-season wise. He would do his shows, he would give it 1,010% for the show, and then he would kind of just not train and not take drugs in the off-season because he said he was afraid that he was going to tear a pec again because he had torn his pec. So he really went most of his career, without having an off-season. So he really never improved that much. Because how much can you improve growing into a show? You're kind of just playing catch-up with your physique. No, his physique was so good that it didn't matter because as long as he got back to where it left off, he still was great. But imagine if he had done what Ronnie had done and just constantly and flex, just get better.
Ronnie would tell me, he takes 4 months off right after the Olympia.
Yeah, that was just at the end, I think, when he was getting a little older. I don't think he was doing that in the beginning,
Yeah, but when he got older is when he got the best.
Right, but I'm just saying he already had. Kevin would take 6 months off, 8 months off.
Yeah, and drink and stuff like that.
Right. Who knows if Ronnie took drugs or whatever either, And Ronnie probably ate 14 times a day too, even when he wasn't going to the gym. So Kevin would lose weight.
But these guys, they're like you. They're freaks. They're not. There's this misconception that everybody can be a bodybuilder. It's just not true. These guys that rise to the top today or yesterday, in your day, they're all freaks. They're freaks of nature. That's why there's not 20 million of you walking around. There's just a handful. Right. So Kevin Levrone and Ronnie Coleman's constitutions, makeups, biomechanics, physiques, whatever are special. They are unique and geared towards this type of pursuit. So that kind of guy can take 5 or 3 or 4 or 6 months off and come back. Imagine if Kevin did spend those 6 months training and getting better. We probably would have seen something just absolutely indescribable because of his genetics. But, he didn't take that route. So who the hell knows? I mean, those negatives are so hard, you can't prove them. So,
but I'm saying, I wonder if that's why he's making the comeback, because he feels like, you know what, I should have put forth more of an effort then. And now he's thinking, well, maybe if I give that kind of an effort now, because I know he's been training for 2 straight years now. I don't think he's taken any time off. Maybe he figures, well, I can get back. I have my genetics. I'll get it back. And I don't know, because we've seen the upper body and it looks really good. I don't know what the legs. We still not seeing any leg shots, so that to me doesn't bode well. You and I already took the bait the last time and got burned because of it.
But maybe he's doing that on purpose. Maybe his legs look. Maybe he's focused on. Well, in fairness to him, he did have some injuries. Leading up to the last prep. So, Dave, who knows? He could peel off and be better than he ever was. I mean, it's possible. It's definitely possible.
I'll tell you one thing. He's got, talk about social media, he's got 650,000 followers on Instagram. So something worked for him.
For a 90s bodybuilder, 650,000 followers. That's fucking amazing.
I know. It's pretty relevant.
So power to him. Sure. And really, he deserves it, okay? He just does. So, he could turn around and pull off the comeback of the century. Completely possible. And because I love him, I want him to do it. But sure. Like you just said, we took the bait last time, and that's not that I don't want to take it this time. I want to take it. I want to be in it. I just haven't seen anybody do it. And it unfortunately enough people have tried and have not done it not only flex, but remember Gary Stridham tried it. I mean, the only person that's really tried it and done it has been Lee Priest.
Right, but he never stopped training, like, really. I mean, Dexter's like 50, he's going to be 48 or something like that, and he's never stopped either. So it's hard to make the comparison. What about Robbie Robinson?
Robbie's he's 70-something years old now.
Yeah, but I'm saying when he came back at 40-something years old and beat Louie.
Yeah, freaking D'Amelio found him on a mountaintop somewhere. Yeah, to pull it from Louie. But yeah, well, I don't.
What about Al Beckles, who was in his 60s winning pro shows?
Look, like I said before, all of these guys, you included, are freaks. You could do it, Dave. You could put your health at risk and geese up and get up to 300 pounds again. You do it in a minute because you're genetically geared to do that. Mm-hmm. Even at 50 years old. So, certain people have the ability to do it. Whether or not you can pull it off is a completely other story.
Sure, absolutely, I understand that.
And survive. You got to survive it too.
You got to live, right? You got to live. That's true. Exactly. You don't want to drop it. I mean, I hate to bring it up, but Don Youngblood. Remember when he came out of nowhere? He won the Masters Nationals. No one knew who he was. Yep. He challenged Vince Taylor at the Masters Olympia that year. A lot of people thought he beat him. They gave it to Vince. Then the following year, he won. And then the year after that, he dropped dead of like a heart attack or something like that. So, he did it, but he didn't survive, like you said.
Well, that's survive, but survival among some of these people is not very relevant. Many athletes, and this was proven in a poll that LA Times did during the Olympics in the 80s, I think. They asked 100 or 500 Olympic athletes, if you could take something that would guarantee you a gold medal but would kill you within 5 years, would you do it? Almost 100% said they would do it. I know, that's crazy. I would imagine in Don Youngblood's mind, on his passing into the next world, he probably had a smile on his face.
Right, he's like, I beat Vince Taylor, right?
Mr. Olympia. Yeah, at least he went knowing that he wasn't a nobody, that he didn't. He went knowing he wasn't in second place. Right. So that's got to mean something for somebody,
Well, Dexter could say that too. I mean, if he could be on his deathbed, hopefully it's when he's 100 years old, but he can say, I won the Olympia and I'm the winningest bodybuilder of all time. And no one will ever beat those records. That's for sure.
Dexter, I think it was on our show. He said, I don't care what people said. I picked one up.
Yeah, he's always going to be Mr. Olympia. That's right.
He's always, for the rest of his life, God bless him. I hope it's like you said, to over 100. He will always have that title. Yeah. It's like being president. You're always going to have been the president. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of these guys' minds, it's okay as long as they, got that statue on the mantle.
Let me ask you that. I'm going to throw a question to you, and then you could throw it to me if you want.
All right.
If you could be Mr. Olympia, okay. Let's say now I'm going to grant you with the ability to do something, transform your body. You're going to win the Mr. Olympia in 2020, but you'll die 5 years later. Would you take that?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
But only if you asked me that when I was 27, I probably would have said in a hot fucking minute. But not now. I mean, I got way too much to live for now. I have kids, I have a wife, I have a beautiful life, I have everything to live for. So,
I would have been like, how about second for like 20 years? That's still pretty good.
It's not a fair question to ask me because it does. I'm not. I never wanted to be Mr. Olympia. So it's not. I always wanted a great physique. I always wanted to look good. I always wanted to look, to kill the fat kid that I grew up with. But I never wanted to be Mr. Olympia. I never had that drive. Now, I got this kid in Mexico who believes he's Mr. Olympia inside, and it's just a matter of time until he, gets to the stage. So if you asked him that question, he'd put his wrists out for you to slash, right now, if he could be Mr. Olympia today. So I'm not the guy to ask that question. And I don't think you are either at this age.
No, I wouldn't have done it even when I was younger, even though that's really what I wanted more than anything. To me, that's not a negotiable, acceptable, deal. I had other stuff going for me, but a lot of people don't have other stuff going for them. So for them, look, Greg Kovacs was a very good friend of mine.
Right.
Even though we didn't talk all the time. It's like you and me. We can not talk for 5 years and then start talking, and it's like we never stop. And he really loved bodybuilding. He wanted to be Mr. Olympia. He wanted to be the biggest bodybuilder in the world. And really, in reality, even though he was a super smart, funny guy, there might not be a better guy in the industry with a better sense of humor than him. He would crack me up when we would hang out. He would do impressions of people. I would laugh my ass off. People didn't know how funny Greg was because he never talked. Unless he knew you, he wouldn't. He was hush hush, very very quiet to himself, introverted. Right. And he had so much going for him. And I used to tell him this all the time. You could do this. And I was trying to bring him in. He was writing articles for RX Muscle, anything to get him back into the industry, because I felt that he had so much more to contribute from and he was a great analyst. He could look at a physique and break it down in 2 minutes and tell you what's wrong with it, what's great about it, and how to fix it. And I said, Greg, you have a gift. You're not using it enough. I said, stop worrying about being Mr. Olympia. It doesn't serve you anymore. You got to lose some weight. I said, you don't need to be the biggest guy anymore. You already proved that you were the biggest guy in the world. There's no one that was big. I would walk down the street with him, at 315 pounds when I weighed that. He was 405.
Yeah, he was short. Yeah.
People wouldn't even look at me. And I was in a tank top and shorts, and people would be staring at him because I looked like his little son. Yep. That's how big he was.
At 300 pounds, you were saying. He was tall too, but 400 pounds.
Not that tall. He was 6'2". He's 405 or something like that.
That's just insane.
And he was 405 just to make sure that the scales, were right. You know what I mean? Just in case.
He wasn't fat either.
No, he wasn't.
I remember that. When I first saw his arm, I go, that arm is as big as my body.
Right.
It was like ridiculous.
Yeah, it was crazy. So the point I was making is, for him, and I really believe this, even though he never really would vocalize it, I think that he felt that if he couldn't do what he loved in the whole bodybuilding thing and be the star that he was, that it wasn't worth living. And I think when you have that thought in your head, even though you're not saying it outright, but you're thinking it, you create a way to leave this world. And I think that's why he left early. I really do. I think that he created it. I think you always create your own exit strategy. I really do. I believe that wholeheartedly.
I agree 100%. I know race car drivers who every Sunday strap themselves into their race car, and they do not know if they're going to, be alive, when the race is over. And they admittedly tell me this. He goes, that's the name of the game. We're going out there to win. If the car crashes and I die, that's just part of the deal, So, that value that you assess on your life relative to the spoils of winning the sport, I only think there's a small handful of people that can actually put themselves into that category of it doesn't matter if I survive or not as long as I win. Mm-hmm. And I think that's I'm not going to say whether that's good or bad. I just think that's really incredible.
Everyone has their own, when they come here, they have their own goals. You and I have long-term plans. Some people have short-term plans. And when their short-term goals are accomplished, it's time to go. And you and I are very complex individuals, and we're slow learners, and so we have to be around a long time to get the full gist of life.
We pace ourselves.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of that, I saw that picture you posted of Sal online. It was cracked up. He looked amazing. How's he doing?
My dad. I posted a picture of my dad in a Santa Claus. I come into his room because he lives in this very fancy assisted living place. I go there. He's sitting on his chair, asleep, and he's got the Santa hat on. Because I know the nurses must put the shit on him because they he breaks their balls so much. They're like, come on, Sal, put the hat on. And they probably had him singing. He doesn't even remember anything, so I can't even be like, well, how'd you get the hat on? He's like, what hat? He doesn't even know he's got the hat on. Get the Santa hat on, and he's got these dark sunglasses, women's sunglasses. I don't know who gave them to him. And he's just sleeping there. It's like... It was so funny. I had to take a picture of it.
I know, it was hysterical. The sunglasses and the Santa Claus hat and the beard it helps too.
Yeah. I asked, my son is petrified of Santa Claus now because of that. So. He's traumatized. The funny thing is about my dad is that he's doing very well there because there's no stress. He doesn't understand why he's doing so well there because he can't remember anything, but he's doing very well there because he has no stress. He doesn't have to worry about anything. They're basically at his beck and call. And I feel bad for the nurses, but I think they like him because he's at least entertaining. Because most of these people, like a lot of the people he's on the memory ward. A lot of them like are zombified, and he's not zombified. He's too aggressive, if anything. He's got no filter, zero filter on him. I asked him one nurse, I said, how's he doing? I'm afraid because I know she's going to say something. She's like, well, your father. She's like, I really like him, but he tells me I'm ugly and I need to lose 50 pounds. I said, well, that's not so bad, I guess. He's got zero filter, and he does it like in the meal hall. Like, they're all sitting. They go to these. They have like a really nice restaurant there, and they serve him 3 meals a day there. And so they get him down there. They're all down there. And no one's talking. Everyone's like in their own little world. My dad is just like critiquing everyone there, and he's ordering the nurses around, and he's got this guy. It's all women. My dad and this other guy, Bert. And Bert is like my dad's henchman because Bert he must be shot worse than my dad is. So my dad is like the leader, and Bert will do anything my dad says. My dad's like, Bert, you eating that? Pass that cake over here. And you're not allowed to share food because who knows, what these people, you're not allowed to share food. They'll give you extra food, but you can't. But my dad has this poverty mentality where he feels that like if there's going to be leftover food, he might as well eat it. That's what he did, when I was growing up.
Right.
If we had like a chicken bone that had like a morsel of skin on it, he's like, pass it over here. He'd strip it off there. Nothing's going to waste with my dad around.
That's Sicilian.
Yeah, exactly. So he's good. Yeah, so he's good. I mean, like I said, other than the fact that he can't remember anything, although he does remember me and he remembers my son's name, which is a miracle because that's new. My wife, he thinks her name is Claudia. He calls her Claudia, but he's consistent with it, so I guess that's good.
Oh, what about the baby?
Yeah, I don't know if he remembers. He keeps saying, "Well, why didn't you tell me you were having a baby?" I said, "Dad, we've been telling you for 9 months already." I said, so I don't think that hasn't sunk in, but he does know Logan. So when he comes there, he'll say Logan. Logan has yet to touch my father. He'll go close to him. He'll tap dance for him. He does all his little skills. He'll do his Incredible Hulk impression. He'll wave to him, but he's too scared of him still. It's pretty funny.
I can see that. I can see that.
Well, I think my how young kids are afraid of people with beards. I don't know. Yeah. I had that fear too. I think that's really what it is.
That's real. No, it was with my dad, with my niece. Same thing. Yeah. She got over it, but it's you got to put in the time. It's hard, man, when they're away like that. So, how far away from you?
Oh, he's 10 minutes down the road. I see him all the time. I see him way more than I saw him when he lived in his house.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, they when we sold the house, his house to a builder, which was great because there was no mortgage. It was cash sale. It was no real estate. It was great.
Good.
They redid the house. John, if I showed you a picture, if you went on Zillow and put my dad's address in it, you would be like, "There's no way this is the same house. It's impossible." Impossible. Because first of all, they pulled every tree out of the yard. They completely gutted the whole yard.
Wow.
And they replanted. They put sod down. They put like little bushes and trees and everything. So the outside looks nothing like my dad's house, And then they completely changed the inside. They gutted it, and unbelievable what they did to this house. And I was, and I know that every nuance of that house. I grew up in there. I lived there for 30 years. And I'm like trying to say, okay, where was this? And it's almost like you can't even make it out.
Well, you can't. I mean, that's what when I go into these houses, I just gut them.
You have to.
You just take it, and then it's just like building a new house. You just, you're at that stage where it's 2x4s. So
yep, and you can put new. I'm sure they did all new electricity in there and all that stuff.
You run new electric, new plumbing. You relocate things. You knock down walls. You put new ones up. You change stuff. So it's you're really just kind of using the same footprint. You're just restructuring everything on the inside. And when it's all new like that, it's just
beautiful.
It's really, it really takes, especially when you've had, a kitchen or a bathroom that's been around for 30 years,
45 years, yeah,
or longer. Yeah. When you put the new one in, it's like, I show people the before and afters of mine, and they go, "Holy shit!" And I go, "What do you expect? The kitchen was 35 years old."
Yeah. My dad built this in the basement. He had built this wardrobe closet for himself. He spent thousands on. I don't know why he did it. He always wanted to do it, and he just one day, I went over there and he did it, and I'm like, "What the hell did you do to Dad? What did you do here?" That's the only thing that's still there. Because it was
really,
because it was beautiful. It was this wood wardrobe closets for his clothing in the basement, built into the walls. I don't even know where he got the idea for this. Because it's pretty. It didn't fit in the house at all. Like my dad was acting like he had like a $1 million wardrobe. So
he liked to get dressed up.
He did. My dad did. Yeah.
That's good.
So anyway,
cool. I'm glad he's doing good.
Yeah, he's doing good. So I wanted to bring up a topic about Jimmy the Bull, our mutual friend.
Oh, yes, of course.
I know you've been trying to get him down to South Carolina, right?
Yeah, I've been trying a lot, yeah.
So my wife Amanda talks to him, and I talk to him, and he's always depressed. His whole
Yeah.
So we've been telling him to come down to Florida. Move. Get the hell out of here, because he's sending pictures. He's like driving he's driving a truck. A flour delivery truck that delivers flour to bakeries. It's like I don't know if you've seen these trucks. They look like gasoline tankers. The thing is huge, and he has to go to the train station somewhere in Queens. It was snowing the other day. He was the only one around at like 3 a.m, and they fill the truck up with where you would normally see gasoline. Only it's flour, and then he has to go to these bakeries and unload it like he's filling up a gas tank, And it's scary. And he's walking around. He's videotaping. He's got a hammer in his hand, and it's like a torrential snowstorm out there. And he's like, "I got my hammer in case anyone tries to pull a fast one on me."
Yeah, the Mel Chancey hammer.
I said, "Jimmy, leave." He lives in the cemetery. He's going to visit his mother every single day.
Yeah, I know.
And I said, "Jimmy, you got to get out of there, man, please."
I told him, I said, "Jimmy, I got a guest room here that I never even go into. I don't even remember what color the walls are. That's how abandoned that room is. It's all brand new, decorated. It's got your own bathroom. You come, you stay with me for like a month, and you just work with me every day. And if you like it, you stay. If you don't like it, you go back, or you go see Dave, or whatever." I go, it's going to be. I think he would thrive here because the pace, the weather's not the best, but the pace is much slower. The people here would just look at him like he came down from Mars. He'd be an instant. Everybody would love him, because he's got that personality. Yeah. And when you're doing construction work, especially remodeling, the people who you're working for have a very high level of stress because you've destroyed their house, and now they're waiting for you to put it back together. And there's always a delay. There's always a problem. This poor lady, I just did her bathroom. It took 7 weeks. That they got the wrong tile came in. They changed. Then they wanted to make a change. Then when the mirror came, the guys couldn't cut it right. It broke 3 times. We had to reconfigure. And so day leads to 2 days, leads to 5 days, leads to a week, and these people get out the end of their rope. Again, Jimmy could come in and play the piano for them.
I said, "Jimmy,
stories.
Come down here. You got a room here." I said, "You can do TV programming with me in the studio," because I said, I know. We want to start up this show. A lot of people have been asking me about the show. We want to do a show with you, me, Jimmy, and Valentino. We want to do like an old RX Muscle, after hours type
Muscle Mob, the old after
Muscle
hours.
Mob, right.
Exactly.
So I said, "Jimmy, you're down here. You just step into the studio with me." I said, "You don't have to worry about anything." I said, so he's thinking about it. But
here I got work from him.
I know he needs work. I said, "You got to get a job, Jimmy." I said,
I can put him to work. I mean, he could work. He could make money tomorrow with me.
Well, so I told him, when you're driving down, you stop in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Stay there for a little while. see how you like it. And if you don't like it, you keep coming down, keep driving south. I said, and I'm sure you could find something to do down here as well. I said, because no one works down here. That's one. I don't know if it's like that in South Carolina. It's impossible to get people to do work. They're so fucking lazy down here. It's unbelievable.
But here they're busy. They're not lazy. They're busy.
Maybe
so
that's what it is.
People don't show up. I mean, it's like this town is booming. I mean, there is construction. I mean, ever since Trump got elected, there is construction everywhere. I mean, every corner, every lot. Every time you go outside, they're clearing another lot for a strip mall, subdivision, skyscraper, whatever. It's happening every single. To the degree where 2 years ago to now, you wouldn't even recognize the place. That's how much it's booming. So, for the kind of work he does, flooring and
he'll be busy.
He'd be busy every day, and I could keep him busy too. So it's. And
he's like you; he can do anything. Just give him a hammer and tell him what to do, and he'll do it.
No, I mean for me, he is the perfect fit for me because I need a guy who does everything like me. Because a lot of these jobs we do, they're not. It's not that they're small jobs. It's they're intimate jobs. I call them because they're in people's houses, and they don't want 70 people walking through their house. They're worried about their belongings. They're worried about this. They're worried about that. So the fewer amount of people you can bring into their house, the better. So we're going to demo a bathroom and redo it. You don't need 20 guys. You need 2. That know what they're doing. You get it done in a couple of weeks and you move on. Yeah. So the trick is being able to manage 3 or 4 of them at the same time. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can't tell the subs what to do. So I need a guy like him who can look at what these guys are doing and say, hey, you're doing it wrong. Do this, this first, do that second, bring this over here, put that over there. And Jimmy'd be great at that because he knows how to do everything.
He's afraid of change there, but a lot of people are. I said, Jimmy, if I thought about moving down to Florida before I moved down to Florida, I never would have moved down to Florida, I said. Because there was so many things, moving parts that I had to worry about. You got nothing. You got nothing. You don't have a business down there. You don't have any houses to sell. You got nothing to worry about.
All he has to do is pack.
Right.
That's what he's got to do.
Pack up your Jeep and get the freak out of there.
I remind, this is what you got to do. You got to tell him this because this made him stop and think one time. I said, Jimmy, when you tried that 1,000-pound bench at Gold's Gym back in the day, I asked him, did you ever wonder if the bench was going to collapse?
It's true.
He never thought of that.
No.
The thought never crossed his mind. So, and if you look at that thing on the video, that thing is rickety as hell. That is not a fucking beefy fucking 2x4 steel tubing bench. That was a rickety little old school bench.
The story. You were there, right? I mean,
standing right there.
Lou Ferrigno didn't want to spot him when he went over 800 because he's like, I can't do anything to help you.
Eric Mosley did. Eric Mosley had to spot him. Eric Mosley was like 400 pounds. He was a giant too. But Louie was there right up to. He didn't put on a bench shirt until 600, 700 something pounds. He didn't even put the bench shirt on.
Yeah, Louie was very impressed because he still. If I remind him of the story, he still talks about it like an excited little kid. Yeah. Like because no bodybuilder in their right mind wants to do that, but it's kind of cool if you're in the gym and there is someone doing that you can kind of why it's like, remember when they would have these video games and maybe you weren't that good at Pac-Man, but there was some guy who could go right to the end of every screen. You almost wanted to watch it because you wanted to just see it happen. That's what Louie was like. He's like, I wanted to see if this guy could do it, but I didn't want to be the guy spotting him in case he couldn't do it,
Back in those days, and probably to this day, anybody who got up in those kind of weights drew a crowd, especially in Gold's Gym. But the point is I said, Jimmy, did you ever wonder that the bench was going to collapse or the bar was going to snap? This was completely uncharted territory. Right. Nobody had ever put 1,000 pounds on an Olympic bar before. It never didn't even fit. You had to use duct tape. All the freaking plates on the collars wouldn't fit. So I go, didn't you think the bench, did it ever cross your mind, or the bar would snap, or anything could happen? Yeah. He goes, no, I just figured it would go up. So,
and that's why he was able to do it. If he thought
exactly. So I go, how can you have that mental not to mention the fact that he was a fucking Marine, but how can you have that mental fortitude and to do that and not be able to pull yourself out of these doldrums that you're in New York, one of the most depressing cities in the entire world. Yeah. So I want him to come down. I think it would be great. I would love it. I would crack up every day. I would have the best days, the best work days. I'd never want to come home. And I know he would be good for him too.
Yeah, I hope he does it. Even if he doesn't, though, we're going to definitely start up this TV show. We got to come up with a good name.
No, we owe it. We owe it to our fans. Yeah. to do it. The only reservation I have is when you get Valentino and him going, you and I can just go.
We can't even speak. Yeah, we can't. Yeah,
we're not going to go and talk.
I become like the moderator. I don't even get to give my opinion. You know. You get one rant. You get one rant per question, and the two of them just scream back and forth at each other.
And then he starts drinking and goes crazy. But I think it would be great. I think we'd have a great time. But like you said, like an after hours kind of.
Yeah. It's got to be, but it's got to be like a question and answer. Like I have to have topics. I wouldn't call it Iron Debate because it's just going to be a free for all. And I always had. Whenever we did those after-hour shows back in the day, I know everyone loved listening to them. I had such a headache when the Smalley brothers and all those. Remember all the people? Do you remember how many people would be in my house?
It was crazy.
Do you remember? It was this Rob and Rob Smalley and George, Mr. G.
In your office,
in my office, Jeff the producer, you, me, Jimmy, Derek Anthony. Diego was sitting on the floor, and then we'd have guests come. Remember?
Yeah.
There had to be 10 people in that little stupid computer room. We couldn't jam another chair, and then people were sitting on stools
on the floor.
Yeah, Sean Andros. Remember he was there too.
Yeah.
And everyone. And there was like 3 microphones. We were all sharing, screaming for an hour and a half, and I couldn't. And then it would take me an hour to get everyone out of my house afterwards because. It was like an after hours, conversation.
But then we moved it to the studio, and it got worse. We
had more room.
Chasing the chicken around the warehouse. And
because we decided to do the TV show, right? Because we wanted to do skits too. We had to I had to be Saturday Night Live. I had to do a skit before the TV show. We would do a skit. It would take 3 hours to film the skit because I had lines that people had to read, and we had to film it out of sequence. And then we would first sit down and do a 2-hour TV show. It was the most mentally exhausting nights of my lives.
And then we had to keep the guests at bay. Remember, we had the Rescue Inc. guys on there, or the bikers, and you had Mr. G was dressed up like Jesus, and he was sitting on the table, and he was
Moses. They were insulting the Jewish.
Moses, and he was talking about the KKK or something like that, or Gandhi. Maybe it was Gandhi. He was doing something that was just politically incorrect.
Well, no, he was.
The guys left.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah, because they thought that they were insulting. He was insulting the Jews, and all the Jewish people were investors in Rescue Inc. or something like that.
They had to leave. Yeah. No, but we would get exhausted. Then before we went to TV, we were only doing radio, and Mr. G would dress up and wear the boas, and then bring the whole skit with them with the gun that exploded and then shot the confetti all over to make a mess.
All my house.
All over your house. Yeah.
Remember the dogs were petrified of him too.
But it was radio. You couldn't see that shit.
I know.
You would do it anyway.
Look, the two of them said, Mr. G, and by the way, Mr. G has created his own potato chip. You know that, right?
No.
Yeah, it's called Mr. Potts potato chip. They're pretty damn good. They got like a protein coating on them, like a spring.
Really?
Yeah, He'll probably be a billionaire with this, but he'll blow the idea somehow. I don't know how he's going to blow it, but he'll probably. But it's a great tasting chip. It's got a whole story behind it. Mr. Potts is like this, like Mr. Potato Head looking guy on the thing. He looks like Teddy Roosevelt. I don't want to go through. Mr. G will tell you the whole story, but so they got. I mean, I don't even know how. I think he's going door to door, basically, into the 7-Elevens, and he's gotten it a lot of places. The chips are good, but they keep reformulating and putting them in different packages, and he. He got a Rabbi Shlomo or something that the guy's name is. He wanted to get him kosherized, and Shlomo wanted too much money. So Mr. G said, "Listen, Shlomo, I'm going to ruin your whole. I'm going to go into the temple and tell him that you're a money hungry, no good Jew. Sign the fucking paper." Shlomo.
Shlomo.
That's his name, Rabbi Shlomo. I'm sure he's ruining. I'm sure he's messing up the guy's name, but that's what he calls him.
This will give you Mr. G's business acumen in a nutshell. I did a segment of, I think it was 2020 with John Stossel.
I remember.
And I needed another guy, and I got Mr. G to come with me, and we were training at.
No, the premise of the show was older guys who use testosterone or something like that. Yeah, and I just knew I was going to get in trouble if I did the show, so I sent Mr. G in my place.
Sent Mr. G. So Mr. G is the whole thing was they were asking me questions, and Mr. G was training in the background. So Stossel was interviewing me, but Mr. G didn't want to just be in the background. So he's grunting and screaming and yelling, and he's pushing the weight up, and then eventually, Stossel didn't even really talk to him. He just talked to me. But what happened was he found out that it was the cameraman's birthday. Right. And so Mr. G organizes this whole party that he's going to sing happy birthday to the cameraman, on 2020. So he gets away with it. So then 2 weeks later, he had that big van that he wrapped with, Mr. G's training.
Yeah, by Mr. G.
And it says, as seen on 2020.
Well, you don't know the after effect of that story. Mr. G, they didn't use any of the footage of Mr. G, obviously, when the special aired. It was just you. But Mr. G actually got a call from 2020, and he thought he had made it. He's like, we got a special request to ask you, and he said, I was like, oh, holy shit, I knew it. I knew they're going to discover, I'm going to get my own TV show. This is what he's telling me. I'm like, so what was it? He's like, they wanted to know if they had permission to use the footage for the guy's like retirement party or something like that. Like the footage of Mr. J singing.
That was the whole thing. It was his birthday or his retirement. Yeah. One of them was the camera. Yeah. He organized this whole little song that he did. Yeah, that was as seen on 2020.
Yeah. That was his
fan. Like that had anything to do with Mr. G's training.
This big break.
Training by Mr. G. What did he call it?
Bodies by Mr. G.
Bodies by Mr. G.
But he spelled it BODYS. No, BODYS. Yeah. He didn't know that it was IES.
No,
I said, didn't you have someone spell check this thing before they wrapped your vehicle?
But the guy wrapping it should have known. But I will never forget when he pulled away at that light, as seen on 2020. Even Max said, "What the hell?"
That's Mr. G. Like I said, it's just crazy enough to make $1 billion. Well,
yeah, we're going to have him as a guest on.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He'll love to come on.
Yeah, people love him. All right, I'm in.
Yeah, me too. He'll be like, he'll be insulted if we don't invite him.
Oh, are you kidding?
He'll have to Skype. But now with Skype, you can't even say no to anyone anymore because you can get anyone anywhere in the world onto the show.
What's his brother Bobby Smalls doing?
He's doing very well actually with the clothing. Believe it or not, he does all the clothing for Weinberger, and Steve sells so much clothing at that gym there. That's a huge account, and he's got all, if you ask him, you'll get, Dave, I got the Under Armour account. I guess it's very hard to be a distributor of Under Armour clothing, so he's allowed to sell Under Armour clothing with people's logos and stuff like that on there. He has the rights to do that. So
that's pretty good.
He's doing good for himself. He's making good money. But he worked his ass off for many years to get to that point.
Oh, I know. He deserves it. I power to him, man.
Does good work.
Very nice guy, too. I liked him.
All the crazy
So that's
people.
it. We're done.
Yeah.
We've come to the end of another show.
Did we? Oh, yeah. See, time flies when you're having fun. I don't even know if we talked about bodybuilding very much, but I guess people don't care.
Well, you first called me up and you said you wanted to talk about this Louie Marco thing, and right. So.
Well, I that was part. I always try to talk about whatever the relevant stories, of the week are. Now, there's no bodybuilding shows going on, so all we could really talk about is what's going.
Oh wait, one thing I wanted to ask you: have you seen the latest Synthol guy?
Yeah, the guy with the who had his arm filleted open. Isn't that the one we did the Iron Rage about?
No, after him, the guy with the purple hair.
No.
It looks like he's taken it to another level. It looks like he's got stockings on his arms, and he has the shit stuffed up under the stocking.
Oh, really?
And I thought to everybody's calling him an idiot, an asshole, a fucktard, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, it looks ridiculous. It looks like a ball of socks, and it's the only his bicep. Everything else is small. And when he's standing kind of like, I can't show you, but with I can't even explain.
Oh, he's like bent. I think I have seen the picture. The guy's like a little bent.
You know, a little bent with the fist. He's kind of throwing punches. You know, it's a really short video.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it looks like it's under the stocking, and I'm thinking to myself, if this gets to Brazil, they're screwed because that's what they'll all do. They'll all put these body stockings on and start stuffing shit underneath it. You know.
Well, it's better off putting socks in under the stockings than putting oil in your body, I guess. You know.
Well, unless you're going to wear a bathing suit, but yeah, I mean, if you're going to walk around in a t-shirt, the stocking thing is the way to go. But I wanted to comment the picture of that girl you sent me.
Yeah,
that was just an aberration. I see girls like that in my gym in Mexico every single solitary day. They're there every day. And, you know, they got this wellness division down there, which is crippling the industry because that's all the girls want to do.
Well, because they don't have to diet for it, right?
They don't. Well, they have to diet, but they don't have to train their upper body. It's all legs and ass. So they train their legs every single day. That's all they train. And, you know, and then they get the fake ass, the implants in their quads, the calves, and they're walking around. They have this little teeny tiny like little upper body, and then you get to the waist, and everything flares out, and you got like it looks like an upside down bowling pin. You know?
Who would have thought women would have done that? You know what I mean? Like it's just so distorted.
Exactly. Who would have thought that women would do this? Who are so conscious of their looks that would do that to themselves? That you're never going to recover from that. You can't undo that.
That wellness division is the stupidest division of all time. It's basically like bikini only. It's like an amalgam between bikini and women's bodybuilding, only out of shape.
It's a fucking hooker parade, is what it is. It's which girl would I want to fuck the most? That's pretty much the judging criteria.
God.
Who the judges sit there and say, who would I want to fuck out of that lineup? And then that's who they pick. It's got nothing to do with anything else. There's no rhyme or reason to it. There's no. It's
like that model division that the IFBB amateur leagues was started last year. It's like they wear clothing on stage. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Are we a physique division? Are we a physique organization? Or are we a modeling, clothing modeling agency?
I blame the promoters because this is designed. It all comes down to entry fees.
No, but you know what? Jim Mannion will never put wellness in any of his shows, and he will never put model search in any of his shows because he knows it's ridiculous. You don't need any more divisions. The last division they needed was classic bodybuilding to bridge the gap between men's physique and bodybuilding. Yep. They got everything covered. There's no other divisions that they need. Ever. And I hate to say that because I like evolution. We don't need any more. We don't need the sport to take any longer. What have they forgotten? What's not there that's a valid physique organization?
Well, when they put women's physique in, I was like, okay with that because, it was supposedly...
It bridged figure and bodybuilding.
Right, exactly. And that was needed. But that's kind of like worn itself out.
Well, they can combine women's bodybuilding and physique now. They did the same thing.
Pretty much, because figure now is pretty much women's physique, and women's physique is bodybuilding. But that's their own fault. But for the men, you're absolutely right. They needed that division to bridge that gap between the extreme and the board short guys. And so they got that covered. They got the 212 because you're right. Bodybuilding does not need any more divisions.
Although. I wouldn't mind seeing a synthol division. I'd pay money for that.
But I wouldn't do it. I would do it as a side freak show thing in Vegas, like at another hotel or something, because you don't want to confuse the two. But that is, I believe that people would go and do that. They would do it. You'd have an ass. You'd have to have an ass division. That's a whole separate body part, all in of itself. And you got these girls. I did an article on it for T Nation. They call them shot girls, and they go to shot parties, and this is they get shots in their ass. They get shots of whatever, and sometimes it's a lethal combination.
It's like a Tupperware party, only for the modern era.
Exactly, and girls actually die. They actually literally die from the necrosis and the toxicity.
I wonder if what the legality, John, would that be of doing like a real synthol party? Like, because people always say to me, Dave, how do you promote synthol use and sell it, and stuff like that? I said, these people in Mexico and Brazil are not using synthol; they're using motor oil.
Vegetable oil.
Yeah, they're not going and getting sterile They can't afford to. They're using gallons of this stuff, you know.
They just heat it up. That's all they do. I did this story on this guy who did it. But, you know, here in the U.S., I mean, my wife goes with her friend. They go to these cosmetic, you know, enhancement parties where they buy Botox and filler and this and that shit, you know, and you know, you spin the wheel, you win a prize, you get, you know, another treatment or whatever. So, you know, they're selling, you know, these spas are selling injectable USP stuff, you know, to inject into your body. So I don't think it's that far of a stretch to do it to the extreme, you know, like these, you know, shot parties, but do it legally. I mean, I don't think it's that big of a stretch.
I think you're right, but I would love to see. I hate to say it. I wouldn't want it involved. I wouldn't want it sanctioned by anything, but I would love to see a synthol contest for all these lunatics who are injecting themselves, who look ridiculous. They can't compete in the IFBB or the NPC anymore, obviously, because they look too stupid. But I think people would pay money for it. I would broadcast it on RX Muscle just for the shock effect of it. Like,
the winner is the one who explodes on stage. That would be tremendous. Could you imagine? Remember the one with the guy with the zit on the shoulder, the infection, he'd been flexing and it popped and pus oozing out all over him and the guy next to him and all over the floor. Could you imagine somebody's arm exploding on stage?
That would be great.
Or ass exploding?
or a woman's butt. A woman's butt.
Love that. I would love that so much. I would probably post the same video on Facebook every single day for like a year.
Talk about social media following after that, right?
Oh, could you imagine being that person?
Live streaming the synthol, or I don't even want to call it synthol. Live streaming the Sight Injection Oil Championships of the world championships.
The Sight Enhancement Classic.
The Sight Enhancement World Championships. From Las Vegas, Nevada, from the Golden Nugget Hotel there. We'd have to get like a real like lower brow hotel to host.
And we'll have Valentino be the MC.
It's perfect. It's perfect, right?
I bet you Trump would get behind that.
Oh, I think so.
With his Miss Universe connections.
Think about it. It would be crazy.
It would be awesome.
There would be no rules. You could put whatever you could put oil. You could have implants. You could do whatever you want. And it would just
air balloons, everything.
People's like biceps would be as big as their head. These girls' asses would be like touching the ground. They'd be so huge. It would be.
There's one that comes to the gym in Mexico. If you see her from the front, she just looks like a girl with kind of big tits.
Right.
When she turns to the side is the most. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you believe. I don't care who you are. You will stop what you're doing and look at this thing.
Oh, really?
Because you just can't understand it. It's these spindly little legs that come up. She's not a big girl. She's just, kind of a skinny girl, and the rest of her body is in decent shape. She's got she's got the lips and the hair and all the other plastic shit that you can get. But she's got these spindly little legs, no, pronounced curve in her hamstring or anything, just a straight up leg, and then you get to her ass, and it sticks. Dave, I swear to God, it looks like a giant pimple. It sticks straight out and comes to a point. And I'm looking at this. And I can't help looking. I mean, I cannot help looking at that. It just looks so bizarre. And my friend who's busted me staring at her goes, "You like that?" I go, "Like that? I don't even know what it is."
It's just shock value.
Dude, he goes, "Dude, there's only one way that girl looks good, and that's on her hands and knees. Other than that, she's got nothing coming." He goes, "You want to see a picture?" I said, "No, I don't."
No, but maybe I do. Maybe I do. Yeah.
Oh God.
Anyway. All right. Well, I think that does take us to the end of another episode. And you know what we say with Heavy Muscle Radio?
The truth hurts.
Good night, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Good night.